everybody. Welcome back to Ghostwood Twin Peaks podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, here on a rainy and windy and leahy Columbus, Ohio night, ready to talk some Twin Peaks once again with Sam Sprouse, my wonderful co-host. Just got done talking a bunch of Doctor Who, so hopefully we got that out of our system.
Yeah, we're primed to be nerding it up tonight. How are you doing, Charles?
I'm good. I missed talking to you. We had a skip week last week, but we're
Yes.
back, and we're going to talk some Twin Peaks. So
We're back with a vengeance.
So
We're back on the farm,
Ghostwood,
on the Dead Dog Farm.
Ghostwood with a vengeance.
Ghostwood. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
With Samuel L. Jackson.
So speaking of that, did you see Captain Marvel?
No. What? Did I what?
Did you see Captain Marvel?
Of course I saw Captain Marvel. I haven't got my review up yet. I'm almost finished with it. But yes, Samuel L. Jackson's really good in that because we get to see young Samuel L. Jackson thanks to the wonders of CGI and a decent special effects budget.
Yes. Well, I think honestly Samuel L. Jackson doesn't look that different. He just has different hair.
Well, he has
you give him some hair.
He has hair for one.
You give him some hair and make sure that it's black hair and not like salt and pepper hair.
Right.
He kind of just looks like Jurassic Park Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that was the blueprint.
Hold on to your butts.
Exactly. Well, because remember, Captain Marvel was set in the 90s, so that would be Jurassic Park, which was 1994, right?
Jurassic Park was 92 or 3, I think.
Okay. I thought it was 94, but I could be wrong. So maybe it's...
I think it was 94 because I was still in high school.
Okay. Now you're gonna make me look this up now.
I'm gonna make you look it up, and I'm saying 93.
See, we were almost talking Twin Peaks there for a second. We got really close.
See, well, yeah.
All right. There's
Captain Marvel takes place in 95.
Right. So
and,
there, of course, you had a lot of good, your obligatory Nirvana, Garbage, REM references.
Yeah, Nirvana and REM are the only male.
1993. You are correct.
Yes.
You are the winner, sir.
Who is the king?
You are. Who's the master? Show enough.
Who's the king? So, yeah, the only male bands on the soundtrack were Nirvana and REM.
Right.
It was female
because you had
music.
You had Elastica, you had Garbage,
and you had Hole, which is
Hole, right? But I would have been really bummed if they had Hole on there, but not Nirvana.
That would have been a problem.
That would have been a major problem.
I agree.
And I appreciate that they went with Come As You Are for their Nirvana song as opposed to Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Well, Come As You Are is a perfect song for that bit.
Yes.
That's in. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just saying it was perfect for that. But no, I absolutely loved it. And if you're one of the haters on the internet that like girl superheroes,
right? You mean one of the incel?
Feel free to stop downloading us.
One of the incel haters on the internet.
One of the Chads.
Chad. Chad was definitely one of the guys that was probably hating on Captain Marvel on the internet.
See, that's the weird thing about us is that in our world, the Chad is the horrible person, but to the incels, the Chad is the guy that gets girlfriends.
Somebody needs to make that a meme that Chad was trolling on the internet about Captain Marvel.
From his jail cell.
Yes.
It's like Captain Marvel was the worst Marvel film ever.
Exactly.
It'd be so great.
See, we kind of tied it into Twin Peaks. We got there.
Yeah, we did our best.
We
tried.
All right, so here in episode 52, we're going to talk about Dead Dog Farm.
Dead Dog Farm.
All right. So
Dead dog.
So, so hopefully if you're, like my wife and you're very protective of animals, you won't be offended by the title Dead Dog Farm. There are no dead dogs at Dead Dog Farm as far as we know. So.
Well, as they say in Twin Peaks, that Dead Dog Farm is named after sort of a legend.
Yes.
That
actually
the best and the worst of us are always drawn to a dead dog.
Right.
And, the worst of us will...
The rest of us struggle in between.
They'll struggle,
Yes. Only those
most of us turn away. Right. The worst of us will turn away from the dead dog, and the best of us with the purest
of heart.
Feel
Yeah.
its pain.
Yeah.
And the rest of us struggle somewhere in between.
Right. So thank you. So
yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Dead Dogs.
Thank you, Irene Littlehorse, for that.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk about her.
Realtor.
We're going to talk about her in a minute.
Realtor.
That's like a really weird spin-off series. Irene Littlehorse, real Twin Peaks realtor. You know, selling all these weird properties with that have sordid histories and strange other dimensional connections.
Well, this is the Briggs house. Now, occasionally you're going to disappear if you live here.
You might end up going through time, but there might be a vortex or something.
Haunts the place, so don't even think about smoking in here.
Right.
Now, this is the old place, and is your name Chalfont? Because if it's not, I can't sell this house to you.
Right. No. Well, what if it's like
it could be Chalfont or Tremont. That's it.
Yes, exactly. It could be Tremont, could be Chalfont, but anything else is right out.
That's it. That's fine.
Now,
this is a lower property. It's a plot of land at the trailer park, and the guy who runs it, don't ever ring his doorbell before 9 a.m. That's the one thing you need to remember living here.
Exactly. Well, you figured somebody had to sell. They had to sell the trailer park after Carl
Rod passed away.
Yeah, sadly, somebody had to buy that thing.
I hope somebody's still feeding them at the trailer park.
Right.
You know.
Who knows? Maybe
people selling blood for food.
Yeah. Maybe Becky took it over.
Colorado.
Who knows?
Yep.
All right. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about this. This is a storyline that took place over the course of 4 episodes, some of which we've already talked about, but only other segments, of course. This started in December 8th, 1990, with Dispute Between Brothers. Then it carried on the next week with Masked Ball. And then Black Widow, as we jumped ahead a month for the next episode of January 1991. And then it finished up a week later and Checkmate on January 19th, 1991. So,
and the reason we're not doing these individual episodes is because they are a little too jam-packed full of storylines.
Right. They're kind of all over the place.
They're kind of all over the place, and they're sort of trying to feel their way around what to do in this sort of. To me, there's two eras of Twin Peaks, the original series. There's the Laura Palmer era,
right,
and then there's the Wyndham Earle era.
This is that kind of limbo in between.
This is that limbo between, but they're trying to figure it out, and it's kind of good because and I think Dead Dog Farm is a good transition story for it.
Right.
Because it's a way to keep Cooper in town for a little bit longer.
Right. Before setting up the next major storyline.
Because I think if like the day of Leland Palmer's funeral, he gets his first package from Wyndham Earle, that'd be a little too really?
Yeah.
That just seems a little too
convenient. Convenient. Yeah, exactly.
Right. He needs that sort of winding down period and then something else to happen to keep him in town. And then Wyndham Earle hits, which is really just what Cooper needs right about now, is this Wyndham Earle storyline.
Right.
So, and we're going through all these stories of other people in the town.
He needs that like a knife in the
gut. Seriously, like he needs another hole in the head.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we're going with these stories with other people in the town, and some of them I find more engrossing than I find others, like Dead Dog Farm,
right?
And what the hell's up with Josie, the Josie story, because she's been so mysterious. That's an interesting story to figure out what's going on with her. How's it going to affect Harry?
Right.
What's going to happen? And it sets up one of the equally satisfying and depressing moments of the final episode.
Yes.
Because you hate those people. So what happens to them, you're kind of like, okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Well, and then it also ties up a lot of the loose ends of Jean Renault left over from Audrey being held captive at the...
That's what Dead Dog Farm does.
Yeah.
So Dead Dog Farm is going to tie up a lot of that stuff. It's the nail in Hank Jennings' coffin.
Right.
And we have other storylines going along, like the James Hurley saga, which we talked about last time.
Right.
The Adventures of Nadine in High School, which is just sort of a less funny version of of Strangers with Candy. it's like the Twin Peaks version of Strangers with Candy.
And then, which kind of makes sense, because we had
Strangers with Candy. If you don't remember, that is an Amy Sedaris sitcom where she's like
that's who I was trying to think of. Thank you.
And in high school.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And the whole gag was just like she's just like way too old to be at high school. So it's kind of like the that whole meme where you've got Steve Buscemi as a high school student. What's up, my fellow kids? Or
what's up, my fellow kids? Yeah, exactly. And you have the Adventures of Nadine in high school, and then you have the problem child plotline with Little Nicky.
Right, which we don't care about.
Which we really kind of don't care about because it has one good moment, which is the storytelling of Dr. Hayward telling the story of Little Nicky's tragic
and
childhood.
Andy and Dick crying over it.
Yeah, but the thing about it is it spends way too much on the character of Dick Tremaine than we need to.
Right.
Because
we hate Dick Tremaine.
There is one successful love story in Twin Peaks. And it's Andy and Lucy.
Exactly. We've talked about this.
We know they're going to get together. We're rooting for them. We want it to happen. There's no reason for them to not be together. Except Dick Tremaine, which isn't really a reason. Dick Tremaine is a complete and total goofball. Right. There's no reason why he should be taking that away.
Dick Tremaine is just essentially the result of Lucy being indecisive about what she wants.
Exactly, but I don't want to see more Dick Tremaine. So the Little Nicky storyline is completely boring. And then
we had the disappearance of Major Briggs.
Disappearance of Major Briggs, and then we have the descent into madness of Ben back out smelling sweet on the other side of Benjamin Horne.
Yeah, Ben Horne's Civil War that we have. So,
we get it. Just want to say it's the Pacific Northwest. Why the Confederacy?
It does seem like a really odd.
That's just how crazy
connection.
He really is.
Exactly. Like maybe he was watching Gone with the Wind the night before, and it just burrowed somewhere deep into his subconscious. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
But it's symbolism of the Civil War going on inside his brain.
Yep. So this is sort of a Cooper segue. This is something thing that Cooper has to overcome in order to deal with the Wyndham Earle story, which is, I think, a wonderful storyline. Right. I like it quite a bit. But and so what's happening for Cooper is we've had the wake for Leland Palmer.
Right.
He's been buried, and the Laura Palmer case is as closed as it's going to possibly be. Leland is the one who technically physically killed all those people. He's in the ground. Leo Johnson is still in a coma. There's not a lot anybody can do. I mean, you can't arrest Bob. So there's not much going on. Serious. 25 years, Cooper, but your suit still fits perfectly.
Exactly.
So Cooper is about to...
And your hair gel is immortal.
Oh, it's immortal. So Cooper's about to go fishing with Major Briggs one last time before he leaves town to go back to Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia. I think, is it Philadelphia that he's at?
Oh, I believe he's still out of Philadelphia office because that's where we had the whole...
back east. He's going back east. Just say that.
Yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Internal Affairs agent Roger Hardy comes in with Mountie King from Canada saying, yeah, you're not going anywhere. There's, I have...
do right.
Yes, exactly.
Or actually Dudley do wrong.
Dudley totally do wrong.
Yep.
And he says, yeah, you're kind of not going anywhere because the Canadian government has told me all about how you crossed the border, killed some people at a whorehouse, and stole the cocaine they were using in a sting.
Oh, and by the way, you're suspended from the FBI.
And give me your badge and your gun.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're suspended from the FBI because Mountie King says that they had been doing a sting operation to try and catch Jean Renault for like the last 2 years. And Cooper comes in and blows everything. And then all of a sudden, the thing they were using for the sting has gone missing. And they suspect Agent Cooper.
Right,
Oh,
because
and
nobody else could have stolen the cocaine. It had to be Cooper.
Yeah, there's no what this town is not like this town is full of cocaine runners.
It had
or
to be
anything
the
like
guy
that.
with the exemplary FBI record.
Exactly. So Cooper fully admits to the fact that he did not contact Canadian authorities, that he crossed the border knowingly to get Audrey Horne because he felt that the danger Audrey was in was too imminent to ignore and to go through proper. It was too. He needed to rescue her as fast as possible.
Exactly. There wasn't time to go through the proper channels, essentially.
Right.
So,
he knew what was happening.
Yeah. So
and
he took it upon his initiative. And with Cooper, it's interesting because he's willing to accept these consequences of his actions. Like he feels like,
right.
I know I went outside, established bureau guidelines. I'm willing to pay the price for that.
And he says, I know that I killed the bodyguard. That was self-defense. I know Jean Renault killed Blackie. And this is the first I'm hearing of Emery Battis dying.
Right. And
so
he's got
he was unaware.
He's got Harry as a witness.
He's got Harry as a witness. And he's got Hawk as a witness.
He's got Hawk as a witness,
so,
too. So, yes.
And he even says, they said, you have 24 hours to bring together a defense. And he comes in and he says, I have no defense. I did all this except for the drugs. I don't know what you're talking about with the drugs, but I know that I did operate outside of Bureau regulations, and I will pay the price. And I was aware of that when I did it.
Yeah. So
it's
at that point he surrenders his gun and his badge, which is a big deal if you're Cooper.
Big deal if you're Cooper.
Yeah, this is like chopping off his arm at this point.
Not just his gun and his badge, his black suit.
Yeah, exactly. He has to trade in his black suit for red plaid flannel and a fisherman's jacket vest.
Yeah, like khakis and flannel is what he turns it in for. Which Albert Rosenfeld says is fashion suicide, but somehow Cooper makes it work.
Exactly.
So
and I think it's funny that he's all decked out in the flannel, and he still has his slicked back hair with the hair gel.
Oh, it's great.
Which complements the look perfectly, right?
Yep. So,
looks
but here's the
very
thing.
outdoorsy.
Mm-hmm. He's still very outdoorsy. He's still totally roughing it.
Yes, that's roughing it for Cooper.
Here's the thing about this whole accusation.
Right.
Is that Mountie King is working for Jean Renault as one of the drug runners.
Dun dun dun.
Dun 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 dun. So Jean Renault and Mountie King have put together this little motley crew of drug runners, including Hank Jennings and Ernie.
Those respectable fellows.
Uh-huh. Norma's stepfather. So this is just looking at the cast of characters is not going to end well.
No, exactly. So
right.
So basically, they're going to the shady of the shady.
Right, and so that cocaine.
So we have this little conspiracy essentially here.
The cocaine that's missing, have it, and they need to raise about $125,000, and so somehow they're going to be selling this cocaine.
Right.
So they have to figure that one out somehow, and because of the drugs being involved, this is going to involve the DEA.
Right. So basically we find out, we get in the next episode, Masked Ball, Gordon Cole calls in.
Gordon.
It's Gordon. Gordon Cole.
Gordon Cole.
So he calls to, Coop, you have my full support. And the DEA is sending down a top dog.
Yep, a top dog.
So.
Who Cooper knows.
Right.
As Dennis Bryson.
Right.
DEA agent.
Things have changed, though, since Cooper knew Dennis back in the day. There's a bit of a status update regarding Dennis.
Bit of a status update regarding Dennis. Dennis prefers to go by Denise now.
Right.
After coming to a personal realization during a sting operation where they were selling drugs to a guy who only wanted to deal with transvestites.
Right.
So as part of the sting operation, he's the one that dressed up as a woman and then realized how much more comfortable he was that way. And just started doing it all the time and became Denise Bryson.
Oh, and should we mention that, oh, by the way, Denise Bryson's played, of course, by David Duchovny.
By David Duchovny.
As in Fox Mulder.
As in Fox Mulder.
Yes.
Yeah. Who has pretty much the best legs I've seen on film since Betty Grable.
He does.
He does.
And it was a good color on him.
It is a great color on him, and those are. I think he waxed himself for this role.
That was one of my favorite Hawk lines as I was going through this rewatch, where Hawk said, like he's introduced to Denise for the first time. Mm-hmm. He's like, "It's a good color on her." All matter
it's a good color.
Which for the 90s was actually a pretty progressive comment.
That's the thing about this. It's extremely progressive for 1990. Right. This episode, because there's not.
Denise is essentially like the first major transgender character, right?
I don't even know if Denise is trans. I don't even. Yeah, she's transgender. But she's.
Well, at this point, she's essentially she's transsexual. She hasn't really.
She's not even
transitioned.
She's not even she's transvestite for sure.
Right.
But they don't even know what to call it at the time.
Right. It was.
Because
this
now
is before the term transgender. Essentially.
Right. Now we know that somebody who does not identify gender normatively.
Yeah.
With the norms that are assigned to their chromosomes and or genitals,
right,
is somebody who's considered transgender or gender fluid, that sort of a thing. But back then it was all transvestites and sex changes, and that was all you had. I mean, and you didn't talk about it. Like the only person I knew,
they had transvestites and cross-dressers. That was basically
and cross-dressers. Yeah, and that was about it. And then you had. And anybody who went from being male to female or female to male is somebody who, and we just said they had a sex change, is what it was called. That was the term we used. And for years, the only person who I had ever known about for that was Wendy Carlos, for years and years and years. And then it was Chaz Bono.
Right.
And now it's something we talk about all the time because we're finding terms for it. We're finding definitions for it. People are starting to I don't want to say the term think outside the box, but
they're becoming aware.
They're starting to allow themselves to not be defined by their physiology.
Right.
And so people are talking about that.
They're not just being classified into little specific groups anymore.
Right, exactly. So, but that wasn't a thing that much in the 90s. And if there was somebody who had a sex change, is what we called it back then, it's like you never really talked about it. And everybody was never sure, like, do we say she? Do we say he? And what's fun about the Denise character is that everybody around her is just so very accepting. And she's very, I love talking about my experience. Ask me any questions you want to ask me, because she's very open about it. And so it's.
Denise was very, just this. For the time period, was just this amazingly ahead of her time character.
Exactly. And the only thing we'd ever seen anything like Denise Bryson at the time was Klinger. And Klinger was
Klinger was just wearing dresses just because he was trying to get out of the army.
He was trying to seem crazy and get out of the army. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't
it's
even.
It's not like he was identifying as a woman. He was just like, I'm a guy wearing a woman's dress to get out of the army.
Look at me, aren't I nuts? Send me home. And that. That was the thing back in the 70s. If you were a man dressed like a woman, you were crazy. Or you had.
It was a gag, essentially.
Yeah, it was a gag. Or we had famous drag queens like Divine.
Right.
That kind of stuff. But again, that was Divine was a very subversive crowd. That John Waters crowd, that was not very mainstream. Back in 1990,
no.
If you ask still to this day, if you ask the average person who Divine is, they can't tell you.
Right.
So it's not, it's like,
Is that
is
somebody
that
that was in
fat guy who dressed ate poop in that one movie? Yeah, that's who Divine
was that
is.
somebody that was in Destiny's Child?
But so yeah, it was again, and I can't say it enough, that we have the television that we have today because of Twin Peaks.
Yes. Again, this
Denise
is
Bryson is an example of that.
this is you're right, exactly. This is a perfect example of just like how innovative Twin Peaks was back in the day,
Mhm.
and still
Yes.
is, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. Now, after after Cooper gets that call from Gordon, he gets set down in front of the panel of guys led by Roger Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he's flat out says, "I'm innocent of any criminal wrongdoing." And he's
Yep.
confident that he made the right choices.
Yes.
And Roger's all like, "Well, this is what I expect from a bureau guy." But he says that he warns him that, like, well, you might be extradited for drug trafficking and murder. And he also recommends, of course, a full psychological workup because Cooper. So.
Right. So, and that's the thing is, and he even says, I only killed one person, and I have witnesses saying that was going to be in self-defense.
Right.
And he totally cops.
So essentially, like, Rogers may be trying to give him an out, like, well, hey, we could just say that because you're you, it would be really easy to say you had some kind of psychotic break to explain this.
Right. Exactly.
So it doesn't look bad on the bureau.
Right, but Cooper's not having any of that. He's saying, look, I was trying to save an 18-year-old girl from being tortured by these people. I did what I had to do. And
yeah, he's not making it easy for Roger, to say the least.
No.
He's not giving
he's not. Cooper has an exemplary record, and he's not losing his temper, he's not getting emotional or anything like that. He's very confident in what he did, and he knows that he didn't take those drugs. Yeah. So he's like, look, we'll figure that out, but it's not
you kind of have to wonder if Albert would have been like in the same situation.
Oh man, Albert would have been. Can you
imagine Albert versus Hardy at that point, at that moment?
That is a battle of wills. That's
like an atomic bomb waiting to go off. Would have been.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It would have been such good television.
Oh man. But even when Denise comes in and says, Cooper, did you do it? He's like, I think I'm being framed. And so he's talking about it with her, and he's like, yeah, it smells like a standard frame up, Coop, but I'm going to need something more than just your opinion. And so that's when they start to figure out that they're going to need to find out where the drugs are in order to exonerate Cooper. Because we're not quite sure who's framing him yet. They're not quite sure who's framing him yet. So it's probably Jean Renault, who is kind of taken over at this point. And it's been a bad week to be Benjamin Horne.
Yes.
Because Benjamin Horne started off being arrested for the murder of Laura Palmer. And the only way he could get out of that was to have Catherine Martell tell the police that he spent the night with her instead of killing Laura Palmer.
And to do that, he has to only, sign over Ghostwood and the Packard sawmill back to her.
And the sawmill. Back to Catherine Martell.
So all his big investment plan went away.
Mm-hmm.
He was accused, lost some social credibility.
He lost some credibility there, and the fact that his solicitor was the actual murderer,
right?
Leland Palmer,
right,
is not good for business.
No, so doesn't really speak
people
well.
aren't necessarily lining up to do business with him or anything like that. And he doesn't have any deals anymore. So,
and see, nowadays that would have just made him president.
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
Yeah, failing at all your business ventures, that's apparently qualification for president. You have
a shady lawyer that's like done horrible things. Well, hey, that's just going to get
and
you in
the
the White House.
None of your business ventures ever turn a profit. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So he's got some problems, and then he has Hank Jennings coming in saying, "Oh, hey, guess what? I don't work for you anymore, and you're out of One-Eye Jacks." And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I own one IJX. He's like, yeah, well, there's new management in town. So
You're out, Ben.
you're so they are ousting Benjamin Horne because Jean Renault is sort of completely taking over.
Yeah.
And so so
Ben's out, Jean Renault moving in, and he's aligned himself with, the shadiest of the shady of Twin Peaks.
Shady, but also the most inept.
Right.
Yeah. I think if Jean Renault had been able to hook up with Leo Johnson,
yes,
the cops would have had a much harder time bringing this down.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Hank and Ernie, that's kind of
it's team bad criminal, essentially.
That's like just bumbling. That's like bumbling idiots right there. It's kind of ridiculous. So, right. Hank is, Hank's kind of basically acting like he's going to threaten Benjamin Horne.
Right.
And because he comes in and Benjamin Horne is like, what do I pay you for? Catherine Martell is still alive. He's like, well, you don't pay me anything anymore anyway, because I'm not working for you anymore. So, but waiting in the wings is a young, hungry man with entrepreneurial spirits and a girlfriend who no longer can work because she has to take care of her comatose husband.
Right.
Bobby Briggs.
Do we want to save all this for if we talk Ben's Civil War period?
We could talk a little bit, but we need to talk about Bobby becoming Benjamin Horne's new right-hand man because
of the folder. Yeah.
Because of the photographs.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So Bobby is.
I take your point.
Sniffing around looking for a job, and Benjamin Horne has basically been in his office, drinking, smoking cigars, and not shaving. And this is, of course, before he puts on his Confederate uniform.
He's basically not. It's not looking good at this point.
It's not looking good for Ben Horne. You just want to say thank God for Jerry and his weed farms.
Just mellowing him out.
Well, no, I'm just saying that after everything that went down here, this family is kind of going into ruin. And I'm sure that legalized weed farm brought him back up to where they were and 10 times stronger. So he's kind of stringing Bobby along, but then Bobby comes in at just the right time. He's like, hey, I want you to do something for me. I want you to follow Hank Jennings and tell me what he's up to and who he's up to it with. So now Bobby's on the right. And Bobby coming around is kind of like making Audrey go, what? What's going on? And it's making me go, what's going on? Why are these two people not in high school still?
Why is anybody not in high school anymore? What happened to high school?
Because it's still the same school year. I mean, it hasn't been graduation yet.
Right.
Oh, it's like Don is still in high school. Mike's still in high school. Nadine is in high school.
Why aren't the?
But Bobby and Audrey.
Yeah. Somehow
they're not in high school. I don't quite get it, but okay. So she sees her dad and Bobby meeting up, and she's probably wondering to herself, okay, Bobby was Laura's boyfriend, and my dad had a thing with Laura that was seedy. What's going on with Bobby? So she sees the drop of the envelope for money that Bobby gives, and she's looking through her little hole in the wall that she sneaks into. And then she goes in later and takes the pictures and brings them to Cooper because she's still trying to.
Well, she wants
hope for Agent Cooper.
Exactly, but she also feels like, well, hey, this is a kind of a way I can make that inroad a little bit,
well,
and act like, hey, I'm helping his investigation.
I'm helping. I'm sort of good at what I can do. I can be good at this, and so she comes to his room and says, "I have something for you. These are pictures my father paid for." Cooper looks at them, and that's when Cooper finds out that all these four guys are working together, and that's when he finds out that Mountie King is in on this. Exactly. That's how Cooper learns about that.
And Denise is there, by the way, at this point.
I'm sorry?
Denise is there at this point.
Not just yet.
Well, see, Audrey visits Cooper, and then Denise enters after.
Well, but when she first shows him the photos, Denise isn't there yet.
That's true.
And so he says, Audrey, you just may have saved my life. She's like, did I do good? He says, you did better than good. You may have saved my life. And she said, so I guess we're
Yeah.
even. So,
And then
which is a line of Audrey's I really like.
And of course, she kisses him on the way out.
Yeah, she kisses him on the way out. But then Agent Bryson comes in, and Audrey is totally enthralled by Agent Bryson. And she's like, they have women agents? And Agent Bryson says, more or less. And so that kind of inspires Audrey. And, she says to Cooper, in a few years, I'm going to be all grown up and I'm going to have my shit together.
Yep.
And I'm going to come find you, Dale Cooper. And, this whole speech she's giving is just making me want to start to cry because I know what happened.
Right, exactly. It obviously doesn't turn out that way. You would think Audrey would have been inspired and went on to join the FBI and become a full agent.
Yeah.
No, that's not what happens.
No, and I would have loved it if Tammy Preston had been Audrey. That would have been super cool.
Oh, yeah.
But, she's a little too involved in the case. I think it probably wouldn't have happened. But
that would have been cool. Like if Audrey had changed her name or whatever, and just she didn't want to associate with her father anymore, so she reinvented herself.
Yeah, something, or just went to the FBI and became something major, and then came home to investigate this. Who knows? But
right. So
she kisses Cooper on the way out, and then Cooper tells Bryson that he has this new evidence. He's like, "Yeah, whatever. How old is that girl?"
Right.
And this is one of my favorite lines in Twin Peaks, which is why I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And he says, Denise, I didn't think you would still be interested. He's like, I may be wearing a dress, but I still put my pantyhose on one leg at a time, if you know what I
mean. That's a good line.
And then Cooper just says, not really. But I love that. I may be wearing a dress, but I still put my pantyhose on one leg at a time, if you know what I mean.
Well, that just kind of shows that even though, he is a transvestite, he still is essentially straight as far as romance goes.
Exactly. And that's a thing that,
like, he's still attracted to women even though he dresses as a woman.
Right. And that's another thing that now today is more common knowledge, that just because you don't identify as your physiological gender,
right,
that doesn't necessarily mean that you are all of a sudden the like, if you go from being a man to a woman,
right,
you don't become just like a woman that likes men. You don't become like a lesbian when that happens. You don't become like a straight woman necessarily who likes men or a gay man.
Well,
it's like you can identify as a woman but still like women.
Yeah.
Or you can identify as a woman and like men. It's like being transgender doesn't mean you're lesbian, and being a lesbian doesn't mean you're transgender. I mean, so it's like that's more of a common knowledge these days. But back then it was like, oh, that's a woman now, so obviously they like men. No, that's not how it is.
And again, it's Twin Peaks being a very progressive show.
Right. And this is their funny little way of explaining that not everybody's that way.
Yeah, it's just like, just because, you have this guy who, wants to dress like a woman doesn't mean that he's gay.
No, that doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah, and for back then, because always, like, you figured people associated any man that wore a woman's dress, they had to be gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's Denise, who showed, like, well, hey, just because I am wearing women's clothes doesn't mean I'm gay. Which is
exactly.
So that was just essentially another groundbreaking moment back then.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
No, that's, like I said, we would not have the television we have today if we had not had Twin Peaks.
Yeah. So it's about this time that Cooper, even with all this stuff going on, he's lost his gun, he's lost his badge, he's under suspension, and all these, all this stuff going on behind the scenes, he decides, no, now's a good time to go house hunting.
Well, because he gets a new job.
Right. Well, this is before he gets deputized.
Is it before he gets deputized?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he gets deputized later.
Okay.
But at least I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Yes.
You might be right.
I think it is. I think it's just before he gets deputized. But it's kind of, he doesn't get deputized until the final episode of the storyline.
Okay.
So this is the episode before that.
Gotcha.
So before he's deputized, he meets up with Irene Littlehorse, realtor of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's interested in cottages on the lake. Apparently he's looking for some nice waterfront property.
Can't blame him. It's beautiful country up there.
Exactly. Very scenic. Got to find out what kind of trees are around this lake.
They're really something.
Really something. So in Ole Cooper fashion, Irene shows him pictures of all these different properties.
He picks there are two that he likes the most.
But so yeah, he narrows it down, but then he leaves it up to a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes out what looks like a silver dollar or something, or if it's like a 50-cent piece, I'm not sure.
Something, yeah. I couldn't tell what it was.
But he flips it in the air, lets it hit the table. He doesn't just catch it in his hand.
Right.
He lets it bounce on the table, and it bounces, and then all of a sudden it lands on a completely separate picture.
It like kind of rolls away a little bit.
Yeah, and there's it rolls over to this folder that Irene has pushed off to the side, and it lands on a picture of Dead Dog Farm. And Irene says, "Well, hey, I thought I removed that picture."
Because it's as she generously calls it, a fixer-upper.
Just slightly.
Yeah, it's a bad scene. It's basically been abandoned, and when they take it, when she takes it to look at it, she says, "Well, it's still standing, probably by sheer force of will."
Well, and she basically mentions well, hey, there's some really bad stuff that went on there. You don't want this property, and he's like, "Ooh, tell me more.
Tell me about it."
He puts both fists on his chin. He's like, "Tell me more.
Tell me more about this property that's probably worth 10 times more than I will have to pay for it. I'm interested.
Tell me about this future money pit, please."
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't be interested? It's it's cheap property for
Yeah.
So it's a nice piece of property, even if it's a crappy house.
Exactly.
It is quite a good fixer-upper.
So they drive out to the house, and this is where she's talking about the legend,
right,
around which you already kind of talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That only everybody else, the rest of us, struggle with this.
Right.
And she says that nobody has looked at the property for the past year. So
he's like, "Well, somebody's been here. There's 3 tracks. There's 3 car tracks here."
Right. So because Cooper, ever the detective.
Because Cooper is like a ninja.
Because Cooper is Batman, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so the doors open, and it's kind of funny because at this point you would think Cooper would kind of push Irene back because he doesn't know what to expect.
Well, I think he's probably sure there's nobody there because there's no cars there.
Okay, so he feels it's safe, is what you're saying.
I think he thinks it's safe because he knows that whoever was there left because the cars are gone. If they had still been there still would have been a car because he knows there were 3 different cars.
Yeah.
And so he's pretty sure they're not in any imminent danger.
See, I'm kind of also wondering if he wanted Irene around because a witness to what he was doing there.
Maybe. Yeah.
As a corroborating witness.
I don't think he's gotten that far yet, but still.
Maybe it's Cooper. He plans this stuff. So maybe he's thinking ahead going, maybe in case I come across something, I don't want to have it, this cloud hanging over me to affect the
No, that's true. Yeah,
he wants to keep
he's not in a position right now to be taking a lot of risks.
Exactly. So he's playing it by the book, essentially. And so they go in there. Looks like there's been a meeting within the past few hours.
Because there's cigarette butts in the ashtray.
Right. And baby laxative in the sink.
That somebody probably forgot didn't have any running water, so it's just sitting there.
Are we sure Bobby wasn't there? Baby laxative. Baby laxative.
Bobby killed a guy.
So there's baby laxative in the sink, and well, hey, because it's a party, cocaine's on the chair.
Cocaine is on the chair, which Cooper, even though he has turned in his badge and his gun, has not turned in his little baggies.
Yes. Well, he
takes a sample of the cocaine.
So he's got evidence, baggies, essentially.
Yes, he's got evidence, and he takes it back to Denise and says, I'll bet you anything this is going to match the cocaine you found planted in my car.
Yeah.
Because there was cocaine residue in Cooper's car that they planted on him to make him look even more guilty.
Yeah.
And we've seen them talk about that they were going to do that. We know it was them. So Cooper's now onto it. So he's pretty sure that he's found out where the cocaine is. So now he's just got to figure out who's been at this farm.
Yeah. And so we talked about Audrey already.
Mm-hmm.
And Ernie essentially is eating wings at the Double R Diner.
Yeah, who's your best bet for getting somebody to roll on the group?
Yeah, I would think Weasley Ernie would be like candidate number one right there.
Because Ernie's got a good thing going. He's got a
number one answer.
Yeah, he's married. He likes his wife. His wife is kind of well-to-do. He doesn't want to lose that gravy train. Yeah. And he has a criminal record that they are aware of. So Denise comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically threatens him with going back to prison if he doesn't help them.
Yeah, because she kind of comes up to him like, "Hey, I'm a woman coming onto you," and then bang, slaps down the her DEA badge.
Yeah, the dossier table on him too. Yeah. Like, hey, we know that you are, for embezzlement and like securities fraud and all these other sort of. He's more of a numbers type of a criminal. Right. He's like a shady accountant.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Well,
yeah, he's not a.
Can't trust accountants; they're all shady.
He's not any sort of like heroic. I'm going down and top of the world ma kind of criminal.
No, he's not Scarface. To put it.
No, he is not going down. He's going to turn.
He's not Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon. Let's just put it that way.
No, heck no. Speaking of gender reassignment.
Yeah.
So they find Ernie and they think he's probably going to be the best bet.
He's the best guy to flip.
To infiltrate, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he's all like, hey, you guys, what do I like? I love my wife, okay? These guys. I'm just a coward, okay?
I'm a coward. Don't make me do this.
Yeah. So in the final episode, they get back to the sheriff's office, and Denise urges Ernie to make a phone call to Jean
Renault and say, hey, because they're still trying to find somebody to buy that $125,000 worth of cocaine.
Yeah. And Ernie, of course, is waffling on this. He's just like, well, I don't know, Jean, Jean's a very dangerous guy or whatever. And Denise basically calls him out, says, well, Cooper comes in and Denise says, well, Ernie's a little gun shy.
Yeah.
Using that exact word. And Ernie's just like, well, what are you talking about? Gun shy, that's not me. No, here, give me that phone. I'll take that. Here, I'll call him up right now. Trying to, for whatever reason, because like whatever perception he thinks that Cooper cares about is important to him for some reason. Like, that whole, like, that public perception matters more to him than his own cowardice, apparently. So, which is kind of interesting, which is kind of weird, but.
And that's the thing. He doesn't want to go to prison. And if they, they have him for dealing with these guys, and it's like, they sort of, and, Hank kind of bullied him into working with these guys because, Hank knows him from prison. And
so essentially he's a reluctant participant. Yes.
Yeah, he's very reluctant.
But like he says, and he makes the deal, and then the next second after he hangs up the phone, he's like, but I'm a coward.
He's like, don't make me do this. I can't.
Yeah.
This is not my kind of thing.
So they essentially, they leave it to Hawk to tape up this transmitter to Ernie's abdomen.
Yep.
And Ernie is like, he's Mr. Sweat, okay, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's all kinds of nervous. He's he's shaky.
It's hyperhidrosis. It's a childhood condition.
Yes, that's what his explanation of his excessive sweating, as opposed to just like no, I'm just being a complete chicken shit, and I'm freaking out right now. No, it can't be. It has to be. Has to be hyperhidrosis. So, and he starts talking about his Korean War experiences.
It's just like,
Yeah.
Shut up, Ernie.
Exactly. So they run through the plan, And the plan is to take Denise to Dead Dog Farm to meet Jean Renault.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, this is where Truman deputizes Cooper.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And he pins
That's
Deputy
right.
Badge number 13 on his
Number
chest.
13.
Yep.
And this is after making him a bookhouse boy.
Right.
So
yeah, essentially he's part of the secret club.
He's part of the Twin Peaks, group of merry bandits basically now.
He's basically joined the Elks version, the Twin Peaks version of the Elks or the Moose. And
no, it's much more secret society than the Elks,
I know.
They're because the Bookhouse Boys are like, even though Harry is one of them, they're kind of like vigilantes.
But my point is that Twin Peaks doesn't have like the Elks or the Moose. They would have to have
That's
a secret.
True. Yeah,
because it's Twin Peaks, they would have to have a secret society.
They don't. There's no like Twin Peaks Shriners Club or something.
Exactly. It's nothing that normal. Is my point.
No.
So at this point, Denise enters, but dressed as Dennis.
Totally 90s douchebag outfit too, with like his hair slicked back, like kind of pulled in a ponytail.
Right.
And
he is rocking the ponytail, the brony tail,
the pony knob. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so gross. perfectly looks like a drug dealer.
So you thought he looked hotter in women's clothes than
yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, not in that 90s douche outfit. That was pretty terrible.
Yeah. And so they go to Dead Dog Farm. You got Trooper and Truman and Cooper watching everything going on from the far back, with binoculars, because bad binoculars.
Mm-hmm.
And Hawk's listening in over the radio through that wire that Ernie has on his chest.
Mm-hmm. Which comically,
so it's essentially Twin Peaks' version of The Wire.
Yeah, kind of. But it's sort of comic, the wire on Ernie sort of comically shorts out because he's sweating too much.
Right, exactly. Because he's sweating like a pig.
Yeah, they start commenting. I was like, "Why is this guy so sweaty?" He's like, "Oh, it's hyperhidrosis.
Do you know your shirt is smoking?"
And then the shirt starts smoking because it's shorting out on him.
Right. So that
he's wearing a wire, and so then the
jig is up.
The jig is up. So they take Ernie and Dennis as hostages.
Right.
And they
so Hawk tells Cooper and Truman that the wire's dead, and then they basically Jean and Mountie King come out and say that we're gonna make a deal, or I'm gonna use these two as hostages, basically using them as human shields.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, and Cooper offers himself up as trade.
That's the thing.
Like, I'm the one you want. Take me. Let them go.
Yeah, let them go, and I'll come in there, and we'll deal with this.
Right.
Which is, because Jean Renault is who Cooper wants in the first place.
Right.
And
it's totally in character for Cooper to just give himself up like that.
Oh, it's totally in character for Cooper to just give himself up like that. So, there's a standoff that lasts hours. And so they're trying to figure out it's Cooper, Jean Renault, and Mountie King are still left in the house. And they're trying to figure out, how to get out of this. And, he's like, what, are they just going to let us go? He's like, yeah, if you surrender. And he's like, well,
Well, if you notice, they rough up Cooper a bit.
They do rough him up a little bit.
Because we see that some time passes. Basically, it goes from the afternoon into the evening. And and it's kind of here where Jean, I guess Cooper asked Jean, okay, what's the deal? Why are you so pissed at me?
Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, because of you, my brothers are dead.
I had two brothers before you, and now they're gone. They're dead.
Yeah, he said Twin Peaks used to be a simple place. Then Pretty Girl gets murdered.
And Cooper.
And then you show up. And my brothers are dead. And he's like, yeah, I know that somebody else killed Jacques, but it's because you were here that this happened.
I blame you.
He blames Cooper. So he says, well, should we give ourselves up or should we kill Cooper first? And Cooper's like, well, then you'll both die. He's like, that's fine with me. He's like, does my death mean that much to you? Is it that important?
Right.
He's like, yeah, kind of.
You would think Mountie King at this point would be going, wait a minute. I didn't sign
I don't
up
want
to
to be
die
part of
here.
this nut job situation any more than I have to be.
Look, you want to be on this whole suicidal, like, kamikaze thing, you go right ahead, but leave me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sign up for this.
Nope.
But nope. He keeps his mouth shut. And because, hey, he's an expendable character. And so, yeah, he says that, he's basically like, you threw everything into this nightmare state. And, like, maybe if you die, like, maybe the nightmare will die with you.
The nightmare will die with you, yep.
Which is a pretty interesting line coming from Jean. And then
Mountie King says, wait a minute, did you guys order food?
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, here's where things get interesting. Because it looks like there's a double R waitress coming up to deliver food.
Yeah, which is, kind of a normal thing in a standoff.
But it's not Norma. It's not Shelley.
It's not Heidi.
It's not Heidi because she's
Annie's not in town yet.
too busy, like jumpstarting the old man.
She's got knockwurst to make. So
who is it?
Yeah.
It
is Denise Bryson.
Denise Bryson. So quick as a flash, Dennis changes back into Denise and swings by the double R for some fashion ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And basically goes in to try to secretly rescue Cooper. That's the plan, presumably.
Right.
So they go in there with it. She goes in there with a tray of food, and John doesn't recognize her. Interesting.
Yeah.
Decides to let her in. Now it is darker, so maybe he didn't get a good look at her face.
It is dark. She has.
Maybe John was too busy looking at those pretty legs of his.
Well, that's what she does. She gets all flirty.
Right.
And starts to show her legs.
Right.
And she's got a gun.
Yeah.
In her stockings.
Yeah. So not like the ankle. It's more up by the garter or the.
Yeah, she's got thigh high stockings on that are attached by a garter, and so stuck in there is a gun.
It's like a little 22 like revolver.
Right.
And
she's hoping that Cooper will see that, which he does. Grabs it from her and shoots Jean Renault.
Right.
And
as he tries to get away, like basically, because John tries to get away, but Cooper shoots him. The tray goes flying. He comes back stumbling out, going, "Arr, you got me."
Yeah, and Denise grabs Mountie King.
Yeah. And
then everybody storms in, and Mountie King...
Come here, Francine.
Come here. What do we do? Stop that!
Sorry, I sent you down that rabbit hole, didn't I?
Yeah, I could do that entire pre-credits bit if you wanted me to. Anyway, So everybody comes in, and Mountie King is probably going to go away for quite a while for this. Because not only did he try to set up a federal agent, he's also running drugs across the border outside of his jurisdiction.
Because apparently all the Canadians run drugs across the border in this show. Yeah,
that's apparently what they do. So, we forgot to mention that it's just Ernie and Mountie King and Jean Renault because Hank is in the hospital.
Yes.
Because Nadine beat the crap out of him.
You're right.
Hank and Norma and Ed were at Ed's house.
Yeah, you should go ahead and do that.
They stole some time together. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And when it was over, and Norma they all
kind of end up in bed together, all three of them.
Not at that point. That's later.
Oh, is that later? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
confused.
later.
Okay.
That's later.
I knew it was coming up, but yeah.
So Hank, she says she's got to run some errands. He's like, wait, we still have the breakfast crowd. Where the hell are you going? So he follows her. So he knows she's been with Ed. So Hank is there, and he's like, so he clocks Ed on the jaw, punches him out, and
Right.
then
Lights out, Mr. Monkey Wrench.
what's up, Mr. Monkey Wrench? So he's trying to, he thinks he's going to beat the crap out of Ed.
Yeah.
But Nadine comes home.
Yep.
And
loses her shit.
And first she comes at Hank with her backpack, and then she just wails on him.
Right.
Just totally takes him down. And so later on,
beats the dominoes right out of him.
So later on, I think he tells the police that he was hit by a bus.
Yes.
And then he tells Norma
right.
that a tree fell on him. So he's like doing everything.
Little conflicting stories there.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can except say that Nadine beat the living
right,
snot.
Because he's totally embarrassed by it. Yes.
Yeah. So he's in the hospital, but because they know that he's in on this, thanks to Ernie and the photos.
Yeah, he's busted. His parole is basically violated here.
Yeah, and because they know from Shelley and Bobby,
right?
They know mostly from Bobby that's who tried to kill Leo.
Yes.
They've got him on attempted murder charges for Leo as well. So, yeah, he's going to jail for a long time after this.
Guess who's going back to prison?
Prison. So, yeah.
Dental plan. Oh.
Do not start me on that.
No.
Don't
as
even.
soon as that came out of my mouth, I'm like, "Oh, you idiot! You should have."
Yeah, that is 5 minutes.
That's like opening the Pandora's box right there.
That is 5 minutes of Lisa needs braces. Battle plan. Anyway, so yeah, Hank is out for the count, which is awesome.
Yeah. So finally, Hank gets taken off the board.
So yeah, Hank's out, and I wonder what happens to Ernie. Does Ernie just leave town and go back?
No. So here's the deal. Okay, so that's kind of where we kind of leave off with Ernie. Although, as we find out in Twin Peaks: The Final Dossier.
Right.
Okay, so in exchange for his cooperation in the investigation, because he was willing to wear a wire or whatnot, he gets cleared of any wrongdoing. So he's basically scot-free. They've worked the deal. He worked the deal. He goes back to Seattle, finds that Vivian had moved out and filed for divorce.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, Ernie ends up reverting back to a life of crime because, hey, it's Ernie. And he ends up in bankruptcy, poverty, and alcoholism. So, Ernie Niles, this one's for you. There you go.
Awesome.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
So, yeah, we never really find out what happened to Mountie King, do we?
No, we don't know a thing what happened to him. Presumably, we figure, well, we know that Coop
this problem.
Exactly. So we know later, 5 episodes later after this one, Gordon Cole returns from Bend, Oregon, and reinstates Cooper into the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they take another 5 episodes just to get Cooper back in the FBI.
Right. Well,
this is where Cooper gets his Smith & Wesson 10mm Model 1076. So rather spiffy.
So Cooper is he's exonerated himself, and he's been cleared of any criminal wrongdoing.
So presumably Mountie King was busted for this.
I'm assuming he was busted.
If Cooper was cleared, that means Mountie King was incriminated, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. So Cooper's all right, except there's still two big problems.
Somebody's going down for this.
Yeah, there's still 2 big problems going on in Twin Peaks.
Which are?
First of all, Cooper's starting to get mail from Wyndham Earl, which is a problem.
Right.
And we still haven't figured out who shot me.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Fibers from a vicuna coat.
Yeah, oh, which, had to go to the cleaners at some point.
This is true.
That's very, very true.
Yep. So lots of other stuff going on with all this.
Yes.
But that's basically the Dead Dog Farm saga.
Which I have to say,
yeah, it's very short. I mean, they get in, they get out. Not like with the James Hurley saga, which felt like it was dragging on forever because we were doled out so sparingly here, there, and then along the way.
exactly.
This one's boom, in and out. They get it done and they start driving into the Wyndham Earl storyline.
Exactly. Because the Wyndham Earl starts coming in
right
during that.
Yeah, they tease him, and then they kick things into overdrive.
Then they kick it into overdrive, especially
because at the end of this episode, after they come back from Dead Dog Farm, that's when they come back to Harry's office and they found that the lights are out. And Wyndham Earl leaves them a little present in the form of a dead body tied to a chair pointing to a chessboard.
A dead transient pointing to a spot on the chessboard. Yeah, exactly.
The Wyndham Earl's next move.
Yep.
Or opening move, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Cooper is definitely staying in town for a while. He might as well buy that house, frankly. But what I like about the Dead Dog Farm storyline is, to me, it's totally worth it for Denise Bryson.
Yeah.
I love that character.
Well,
I love David Duchovny. So it was totally, totally, totally worth it.
Well, and Denise became such a fan favorite of Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So, and obviously David Lynch thought so too, because he asked David Duchovny to come back for Twin Peaks: The Return and reprise Denise, knowing that fans liked Denise, and
which he did, and I was so happy that happened.
And it was really great that Duchovny, even after his big career in the X-Files and doing other stuff, was willing to come back and do that.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
So credit to Duchovny for doing that.
Oh, heck yeah. But yeah, the fact that
he didn't have to do it. He could have just said no and turned it down, but he didn't.
Yeah. Because this is a bit character that was in 4 episodes?
Exactly.
I mean, it's not that big of a thing, but yeah, definitely a fan favorite.
Right. They could have obviously written a different character in that place. But Duchovny was willing to do it, so I got to give him points for that.
I do too. I think it was great. And looking back on it now, the fact that it only took 4 episodes for Cooper to be okay is great.
Right. That's what I'm saying. This storyline is very nice and tidy.
Yeah.
It does its thing. It doesn't drag on forever.
Nope.
And so as a result, I think it's much more effective than obviously the James Hurley saga.
Well, in the James Hurley saga too, it's like that doesn't.
Well, and it also helped that you had characters that you cared about more.
And that's the thing, is
you cared about what happened to Cooper. You cared about, is Jean Renault going to get finally taken down?
Yeah, you want to know what's going to happen to Jean Renault. You want bad things to happen to Hank Jennings.
Exactly.
You care about Cooper. Now, I care about James too, but at the same time, the end of Dead Dog Farm has a payoff. That's great. The bad guys get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
And Cooper's okay.
There's a resolution. There's closure.
Yeah. But at the end of the James Hurley saga, James is okay, but he drives off into the sunset, and James is not okay. James doesn't go to jail, but he's still not okay. He's still very tortured.
Well, as we find out from Twin Peaks: The Final Dossier, he becomes an exile essentially.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So
he lives in exile, and he's basically has to struggle to stay out of jail.
It would be one thing if, this whole situation with Evelyn had brought him back home to Donna, and he tried to figure out, he recognized the good things in his life, and he tried to figure out how to, put things back together and where to go from here, something like that. Or if it had given him some sort of purpose, but it really wasn't much of a good payoff. Plus, I didn't know Evelyn and what's his name, so I didn't care what happened to them. Like, I didn't care if they went to jail or not, or and then I wasn't even all that upset when
Malcolm, you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And when the husband died, it's like I'd seen him for like 5 minutes.
He was only in one episode. How invested could you be in this character?
You're not necessarily so even though he was an abusive husband, and believe me, I love to see abusive husbands die.
And we never actually got to see physical evidence of that. We're going by what we heard.
Exactly. So it's not like I didn't care enough about him to feel super excited about the fact that he was dead or anything like that. So it wasn't as much of a payoff as this was.
Right.
So.
But yeah, this one gets in, gets out, and you get closure with it. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else about the storyline you want to talk about?
No, the only other thing I wanted to mention was Gavin O'Hurley.
Oh yeah. Well, I was going to do some trivia bits, so go ahead. You can do that one.
Gavin O'Hurley, who played Mountie King,
right? Yeah.
Who I'm sure everybody recognizes.
Preston King. That's his first name. Preston is his first name.
Preston, yeah. I just like saying Mountie.
Mountie's funnier, yeah, exactly.
Just, I love the Mounties. They're the most fashionable of the.
Looks so dapper in those red uniforms.
Of the federal police departments across the world.
Right.
So
the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer, Preston King. Yes.
So, I'm sure most people our age remember him as Brad from Superman 3.
Right.
Or
as Jack Patachi.
Jack Patachi from Never Say Never Again.
Right.
Where this is what heroin's going to do to you kids. If you're so addicted to heroin that you are willing to have an eye transplant.
Right, exactly. So that you can
to help Spectre steal nuclear warheads.
Yes. That's
eyeball transplant.
Well, that's commitment.
That eyeball transplant. Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, I know. That's commitment. That's what I'm saying.
That's pretty bad. So
so obviously son of Dan O'Hurley,
who is Andrew Packard.
Exactly. So keeping it all in the Twin Peaks family here.
Yeah, so we've got father and son acting in the same show with no scenes together, which I thought was interesting.
I know, right?
That's kind of cool.
You think they would have at least one scene together?
Yeah, you would think that they would just like cross paths at the Double R or something like that.
Or at Great Northern or something. That just,
right, exactly.
But
so
nope, not at all. Now there was one other trivia bit I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So Agent Roger Hardy. Is played by Clarence Williams III.
Link Hayes, baby.
You got it. So best known as Link Hayes in the TV series The Mod Squad, which also starred.
I think that was Peggy Lipton.
I think you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So nice little.
So essentially, Norma was in the Mod Squad with Roger Hardy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the Candlestick, but anyway.
And you know what else he was in?
What?
He's Prince's father in Purple Rain.
You're absolutely right about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Good call. I forgot about that.
So, yeah, so cool.
That's very cool. So yeah.
Again, we have like this Mod Squad reunion that doesn't actually happen.
No, because well, no, they did have. There was a scene where Hardy's in the Double R, and I think Norma takes his order or something.
Something like that, but it's
really brief. But I think they do share one scene together.
But there's no like nod to anything or anything.
No,
like
it's
that,
not. No in-joke references.
Yeah, it's just there. We have this Mod Squad. We have this Mod Squad reunion.
This unofficial Mod Squad
reunion. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
But I just thought it was kind of cool, so I thought I'd mention it.
That is very cool.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. So if you don't have anything else, what's your rating for this one?
My rating for this one is 8 out of 10 Bookhouse Boy Patches.
We're dead on. I gave it 8 out of 10 surrendered FBI badges.
Oh, nice.
I was going to do that one, or if you took that one, I was going to go with smoking chest microphones.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Smoking sweaty chest microphones.
Sweaty chest microphones.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said,
but it's a good solid 8 from both.
It is. This is a storyline that doesn't really take a lot of time, so it's not terribly necessary to the plot of Twin Peaks, but like I said, it gains a lot for introducing Denise Bryson to us.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier, but it's a great transitional storyline.
Yeah, it's a good reason to keep Cooper in town
so that he can deal with the Wyndham Earl threat.
Because that's the thing, is that Wyndham Earl has taken a while to find Cooper, and if he just flew back to Philadelphia...
That would have been kind of funny. It's like, okay, so Wyndham Earl just arrives in town, like...
He's in his little cabin.
Just too late, after Cooper had already gone back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, and he's like, wait, Cooper, what? Damn it!
He was just here!
Yeah,
I missed him.
How did I miss him? What the hell? So it's a good way to keep Cooper in town. And... the kind of the cool thing is that some of the goofier storylines in these 4 episodes, they kind of peter out when we start getting into the Wyndham Earl saga.
Right.
Because other people start getting involved in the Wyndham Earl saga.
Yeah, the Wyndham Earl saga does a good job of incorporating a lot of the cast into it.
Right. We've got the 3 young women who all get the poem.
Exactly. Leo's involved. You've got, just... Wyndham Earl encounters various people along the way because he just shows up. He shows up in disguise in a lot of places.
Yeah. So
it kind of brings them into the main orbit.
Yeah, he brings everybody into the main orbit, and even Doc Hayward he brings in by posing as his dead college friend, and so more and more.
And then when they have the Miss Twin Peaks contest, a lot of the cast are involved in that, but so is Wyndham Earl because that's his main target.
Exactly.
To get the queen.
So that's right. So that's what's going to happen there. And then we have, we have the goofy Dougie Milford marrying Lana.
Right.
Which turns into the Dwayne Milford.
And
almost
Lana.
Getting with Lana.
Right.
Which is very goofy, but has a little bit more of a point because he is a judge at the Miss Twin Peaks contest, and she wants to win the Miss Twin Peaks contest.
Yes. So, and you obviously expecting him to vote for her. Yes.
Right. I will say I do love the Milford wedding. I think that's hilarious. Where they're all like, I love Milford weddings. Like they obviously have all been to one 8 times.
Right. Exactly. Because they happen so frequently. It's like, they explained that was it's like the seasonal change thing.
Yeah, his weddings are seasonal.
Like the salmon spawn in the spring or whatever, and so do Milford weddings happen at the same time.
Yeah. And there's a scene where the log lady goes up to Pete Martell and just says, "This cake is delicious." And he's just sort of looking at her like, "What the hell, lady?" And I always get a kick out of it when the two of them are on screen together.
Right. Maybe you should wash that down with a nice glass of milk.
Or, like in the last episode where he thinks that she stole his truck.
Yeah, the log lady stole my truck.
He's just looking at her all suspicious and stuff, but I think it's...
And they have to reassure him, no, Pete, the log lady did not steal your truck.
Wyndham Earl stole your truck. So he...
Even then, I don't think Pete was sold on it.
Yeah, I don't think he was.
I'm still he's all shifty eyes looking at the log lady.
Because Pete knows what he saw, by God. Exactly. He saw the log lady steal his truck.
Right. He trusts his own eyes.
Yeah. Does but again, just because they have been working with David Lynch the entire time David Lynch has been making films, and because they were formerly husband and wife, I always get a kick out of the fact that they were when they get a scene together. So
that's good.
Because I love the fact that they were husband and wife, but they still work well together, I think.
Right. I mean, sometimes obviously there's that strain because you can't stand to be around that person emotionally.
Well, sometimes you just can't be married to somebody.
Exactly.
You're fine with them as a person.
But sometimes the divorces happen and people still remain friends, which is good. Mm-hmm. That's the healthy way.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like because the one thing that made you not like each other was being married to each other.
Exactly.
So,
but otherwise they get along great. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you don't have to be partners with somebody anymore, you can be friendly with them. Exactly. So
some people work better as friends than as lovers or whatever. So yeah.
So does Hank? I'm trying to remember. Does Hank ever get? Does he ever get prosecuted for setting the mill fire?
I don't know.
because there's a
I can't remember. I don't think so.
when Catherine Martell
At least not on screen.
when Catherine Martell goes to see Benjamin Horne,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about, getting a phone call in a voice she didn't recognize. I was like, oh yeah, that was Hank that called her.
Maybe the only thing I can think of is that maybe when Harry's filling in, like as kind of a aftermath about what happened to Hank, he says, "Well, Hank violated his parole, and then they brought him up on charges for this and this and this, or whatever." Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
Yeah, but
possible.
it sounds like the only people who know about that are Ben Horne and uh, Hank Jennings. So I don't know. Maybe Ben Horne, in an act of revenge, told the cops
Well,
something. I don't.
Catherine had to know about it.
Catherine didn't. She said it was a voice she didn't recognize. I don't think she knew who Hank was.
Oh, that's true. But
So
couldn't Shelley have identified who did it?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would think Shelley could have
Because
identified Hank.
she might have been able to, but because Hank is who shot Leo through the window, but her back was to the window at the time.
Right.
She might have just been so terrified from being tied up.
Well, we'll find out eventually when we start rewatching some of these episodes.
Yeah, we'll see. See what happens.
All right. So actually, I have some feedback this week.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
I've barely been on social media. I haven't seen anything.
It's been a while, but we got some email to the Gmail.
Some email.
Email to the Gmail. So Jeff F. from Minnesota writes in. I know Jeff's full name because Google sent it to me.
Nice.
But he didn't put that in the sign.
Well, we're not gonna divulge
so
his secret identity.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll keep that under wraps. So
Yep.
if he wanted to include that, he would have put it in the body of his letter. So I'm gonna leave
Yes, he would have.
So I'll protect the secret identity for now. All right. So he says, Jeff writes in, "Hey Ghostwood, huge Twin Peaks fan that stumbled onto your podcast. Love the show. Just listening to the James Hurley saga, so much better than actually watching it.
Thank you, Jeff. We were hoping that you would consider that a public service like we did.
Exactly. This is our gift to you.
Yes, this is our gift to you.
We watched it so you didn't have to.
We watched it so you didn't have to. Yep.
Exactly. So he says, can't wait to hear more and to dig into the back catalog. Please keep it up. Best, Jeff F. from Minnesota.
Thank you, Jeff. That's our plan. Thanks. I'm glad you found us. I'm glad you're here.
So thank you, Jeff, with 3 Fs. Jeff with 3 Fs. Seriously, we really do appreciate you, Jeff. And thank you so much for writing in and letting us know that we're actually doing a good job. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we definitely appreciate it.
It's always great to hear feedback, and especially when we get positive feedback. So that's always good to hear. So
definitely.
It's like, hey, we're not completely sucking at this. That's great.
Yay. And it's just nice to know that there are nerds out there like us who love the show as much as we do.
Right. And at least some of those that appreciated us summing up the James Hurley saga.
Yes. I thought that would be an appreciated.
That's the major selling point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So nice to know we're getting some points for that. So if you want to be like Jeff, and please write in, let us know what you think, and anything else about any upcoming storylines we're going to talk about, or just whatever Twin Peaks general thoughts come into your brain. You can drop us a line like Jeff did at ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com, at the Gmail, ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach us on the Twitter machine at ghostwoodcast. We definitely appreciate that.
Yes, definitely.
On our Facebook page, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks Podcast. You can drop us a line there as well. Many people have.
We're all over the place.
We are all over the place. So it's not like you don't have the ability to reach us, is what we're trying to say here. So please reach out to us. We definitely appreciate it because we want to know what you guys think and how we're doing and stuff you'd like to talk about Twin Peaks. So let us know.
Yeah, because Charles and I could talk about Twin Peaks all the time, but it's easier if we know what you guys want us to talk about.
Right. So if there's something we're not covering that you want us to cover, well, drop us a line and let us know, right?
Heck yes.
There's an idea. All right. So next time on Ghostwood, what are we going to talk about next time?
I think
You want to do
we should
Major
talk.
Briggs's disappearance, or you want to do Ben, or
I think we should talk about Josie.
you want to talk about Josie? Okay, cool.
We'll talk about Josie.
I'm wondering if we should talk about that, and then because I want to do that final episode with you. So do you want to make this like a two-parter where we talk about leading up to Josie, or I don't know, we'll have to see how much time that fills up. Because we might
Like
want to
the
have
final episode.
well, like Josie's final episode.
Oh, Josie's final episode. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Well, my point is that, like, I know there was some stuff leading up to that.
Yeah, let's talk about
So
what's going on.
So do you want to kind of like maybe we'll talk about it for a little bit and then we'll watch the episode?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We can sort of back up and sort of revisit Josie's bad planning.
Okay.
And how she gets, how Catherine Martell finds her out and how she becomes Catherine's maid and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so maybe that'll take an episode and then we could do her final episode after that.
Or we could do it all together. It's not long.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. I was trying to figure out.
No, just sort of say, okay, here's.
See, this is the kind of stuff we should have probably talked about off the air, but we're producing on the fly, so we're being transparent here. You're part of the process, right?
But yeah, we'll sort of summarize how Josie got to where she is right now and how she got so desperate.
Okay, that's cool.
And
then we'll just run through the episode.
And then we can just sort of run through
like we normally do.
Eckhart coming to town and Andrew still being alive, and
because I kind of would like to really watch that episode, the final, because I know that was your gateway episode.
Yeah, that was the first episode I saw.
So I kind of want to want to watch that through with you, like we've been doing before when we did the Laura Palmer saga.
Yes, exactly. Well, imagine having that be your first episode.
I know.
And then oh great, I love this. Now it's canceled. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
For that. So I was very happy when it came back.
Yeah. So. Well, as was I, because I was really invested in the show by that point. So
heck yeah.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about Josie's backstory, and then we'll do the episode.
That sounds great.
So,
okay, so we're gonna have a big Josie episode next time.
Yep.
All right.
This is the Josie episode.
Yeah, this is the Josie.
Because honestly, I think I was the most disappointed in the fact that there was no Josie anything in The Return.
Right. And Bob asked the question, what happened to Josie? We don't know what happened to Josie.
We have no idea.
Yeah. So, let's see here. That was The Condemned Woman is the episode I'm trying to think of.
The Condemned Woman, yes.
So next time on Ghostwood, we're going to talk The Condemned Woman, but we'll also recap what happened up to that point. And then we'll talk about it. So
exactly.
So we'll set the table, and then we'll have a nice little main course.
Which means we get to talk about David Warner, which makes me so happy.
Right, because hey, Thomas Eckhart, major player.
Mm-hmm.
So we finally get to talk David Warner.
Yes.
This is good.
Yes. He's not in it much, but it counts.
Speaking of David Warner, did you hear that they're doing a Time Bandits TV series?
I heard something about that, but
that's in development. Yeah, Time Bandits TV series. And
interesting.
Taika Waititi, I forget that's how his name is. The guy who directed Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
Is involved, apparently.
Who's going to be in it?
I don't know. I don't think they've cast yet.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
It's just they just announced it recently, so might want to keep an eyeball out on that one.
Yeah.
Or two.
I wonder how that's going to... That has a lot... Time Bandits has a lot of heavy hitters in it.
I know. So so this could either be like a reinvention or expansion. I don't know how they're going to do this.
Like, who's going to be King Agamemnon?
I don't know.
That'll be interesting.
Some really... I hope they do it right. I hope they do it justice.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, are the actual Time Bandits, are they still going to be little people, or are they going to be, full-sized, or what? How's that going to work?
Yeah, are they going to be little people, or are they going to not be, or is it just going to be a whole different kind of crew of guys or is it going to be females? I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean,
That'll be
it's gonna be
interesting.
it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do with this. But
Yeah.
just something I thought I'd bring up because you mentioned David Warner, and of course David Warner was in Time Bandits.
Oh, my absolute favorite devil on film of all time.
Right. Evil.
De Niro's pretty good.
Is evil.
De Niro's pretty good, but David Warner's devil is pretty amazing. Yeah. My favorite line in Time Bandits is a David Warner line,
which is
where he's talking about how he's better than God because he understands technology and he's he understands what's going on in the here and now and he says, but him, what does he do with his time? 44 species of parrot. I ask you. I love that. 44 species of parrot. I ask you.
It's been a long time since I watched that movie. I need to watch that.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in years.
No one seems to broadcast it, so I never get to watch it.
It's another one too. Like
I'm gonna have to stream that.
Again, I still don't think 30-year-old movies have spoiler alerts, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's another one too, like Holy Grail, that just ends.
Yes.
Just something terrible happens and the movie's just over.
Well, I think that happens a lot with Terry Gilliam films. They just end.
Yeah, it kind of does. Well, Brazil though has an ending.
That's true.
It's a depressing ending.
But it's an ending,
but
at least.
Yeah.
The Holy Grail just cuts, and
the Holy Grail is just kind of ridiculous. How it just stops.
Because the film snaps, and supposedly that's the end.
Right. Well, it's like they're getting arrested by
exactly, and the cameraman gets brought in, and so they stop filming. Yeah, abruptly. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous.
Okay, so next time
this one's like the kid is just left out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
With no parents, no house. See ya.
Yep. Sucks to be you. Bye. The end.
See you later. So.
Yeah.
But
like
have you seen my Time Bandits map?
You have the map.
I have the map. Yes.
Give me the map.
It looks like an old. It looks like an old nautical star map.
Yeah.
So I have it in my house, like framed and looking all classy.
Oh, cool.
It's a small version of it, but yeah, it's framed and it looks all classy. Yeah. And so cool. It probably just looks like I'm into nautical history. But yeah, it's a Time Bandits map.
That's very cool. That's very awesome. I'll have to check that out next time I'm over.
Yeah, next time you're here. Seriously.
Cool. All right. So, in the meantime, if you want to, we talked about how you can reach us here at Ghostwood. So, Zan, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
I am on the Twitters and on the Instagrams as Udinax19.
Yes.
And I'm on the Facebook as Zan Sprouse, but I'm kind of not on there that much.
Okay.
And
you seem to be on there more than Twitter.
Because Twitter just, I don't know. I'm on Facebook more because that's where that's where I get events and stuff.
Right.
So, my Twitter is also a little bit more personal, so it might be more boring for people.
I'm never bored.
And well, you're not a stranger.
Oh, okay. I hope not.
But I'm also lurking around on the Ghostwood Facebook page. I go there.
Excellent.
I go there a lot. I just posted something the other day. What was it I posted?
You put the Bob's Burgers thing.
Yes, the Bob's Burgers thing.
Yeah, that was good.
That was amazing when I saw it.
It was a Bob's Burgers Twin Peaks mashup.
Yes, the Bob's Burgers Twin Peaks mashup. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. I just posted a thing about Amazon's got a Twin Peaks store now.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So I posted the link for that.
I should probably check that out.
They had an Audrey shirt.
Yeah, I know. I've seen those.
The one that she's got, talking about algebra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
All right. So as for me, you can reach me on the Facebook or at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, or my blog at Geeky Things. Damn good coffee and hot. Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Ghostwood and kind of David Lynch stuff, or news of my other podcasts,
or your review of Captain Marvel, maybe?
My review of Captain Marvel, which hopefully I'm going to get finally finished tomorrow. It's been work has been dogging me, so I haven't been able to sneak away
I hear
and
you.
finish this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get this done. It's a battle going on, but I'm almost finished. So hopefully tomorrow. So hopefully I'll have my review of Captain Marvel. Spoilers, I liked it. So right there. News of my other podcasts, like say Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where currently Jesse Jackson and I are reviewing Doom Patrol, which is an outstanding entry by DC Universe.
Oh, is it good?
It's a huge step in quality up from Titans. And if you're a Twin Peaks fan and you love weird stuff, Doom Patrol is right up your alley because they went full Grant Morrison in last week's episode with like pulling directly from the storyline with Willoughby Kipling, their version, the Doom Patrol version of John Constantine.
Wow.
And the Cult of the Unwritten Book. So it's right there from Doom Patrol 31 to 33. So they went full weird Grant Morrison, and it's beautiful.
Interesting.
Highly recommended this show. Definitely recommend checking it out. If you're on the fence about DC Universe, check out Doom Patrol. It's basically Netflix worthy show that could be on Netflix but isn't. It's on DC Universe. So highly check that out. So we're reviewing that. And Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, of course, that I do with Jesse Jackson. And also we're doing a lot of guest hosts. Mm-hmm. And before we talked about this on the podcast this week, I finally asked Zan if she would be on Next Stop Everywhere. And she gladly agreed to.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to talk some Doctor Who. So we're going to get Team Ghostwood on Next Stop Everywhere. So
that is going to be a fun crossover.
I am totally geeking out over that. I am so excited, and I can't wait to talk the episode that we're planning to talk about. I'm not going to talk about it yet, though.
Okay.
I'm going to tease that.
That's a teaser.
But it's a really effed up episode, and I really can't wait to talk about it.
It is. It's a fan favorite guilty pleasure episode. That's all I'm going to tell you.
And it's featuring one of the 80s doctors. I'll just spoil that.
Featuring an 80s doctor and the best companion. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there are people who will be willing to debate you on that one.
I'm sure they will. Yes,
I'm
sure they will.
But your favorite companion is definitely top 5, if not top 3.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I will definitely give you that because she's one of my favorites. All right, so so if I tease that enough, otherwise, that's it for Ghostwood. Next week we're going to talk, of course, The Condemned Woman, and we're going to talk some Josie Packard. At long last.
We're going to talk some Josie Packard, Thomas Eckhart.
We're going to dive deep into what's up with Josie Packard.
Coop, what happened to Josie?
What happened to Josie? So
nobody freaking knows. I don't even know if Bob knows.
I don't think so either. No, it would have been funny if like Bob had gone, "No, really, Coop, what happened to Josie? Nobody told me."
No, seriously, because that drawer pull thing, I've never seen that before in my life, and I am immortal.
That was some weird crap, man.
That was Coop. It blew my mind. What are we gonna do?
My brain.
The only person
my brain exploded.
Where Josie is probably Major Briggs.
Probably.
So we're never.
Probably because we never really got a good real answer.
She's in the zone.
Yeah, somewhere Major Briggs's head is floating around in space.
Somewhere Major Briggs's head is with all of this knowledge, and we can't mine it. We can't find it out.
Right. Cooper needs to go back and go, "Hey, Major Briggs, what about Josie? Nobody ever told us."
What year is this?
What drawer pull is this?
Yeah, seriously. Right. And
what drawer knob is this?
Yeah, because Bob's been a lot of places, but he's never been at a drawer pull knob. So
yeah. I was still hoping that when we talked about Twin Peaks: The Return and they had that buzzing noise.
I was hoping that would be Josie because it was at the Great Northern.
That Ben and Beverly were trying to locate the source of the noise. I was hoping that would have led right to the room where Josie.
That's exactly what I wanted.
See, if I was writing it, that's what I would have done. So just me.
Did they ever find out what that was?
I mean, you didn't even have to bring Joan Chen if Joan Chen was not available.
That's the thing. They never really did find out what that buzzing was.
I would have at least addressed it.
Yeah. They never did really find out what that buzzing was. So I'm calling it. It's Josie.
Okay, we'll just do our own headcanon and say that buzzing sound was Josie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what we're saying.
And then we're until somebody tells us otherwise. That's it.
Come fight us, internet.
Yeah, debate us.
Yeah.
Bring it. Debate me.
Oh yeah, seriously. Right. I got my coffee cup. Prove me wrong.
There you go.
Seriously.
Okay. All right. So everybody, come on back. We're gonna talk Josie Packard, and we'll see you next time right here on Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Bye.